Hey everyone, welcome back to Adventures with Edna. I'm Chris, and today I wanted to talk about the possibility of taking Edna on Hot Rod Power Tour this year. It's not till June, it's currently February, mid-February, but the event isn't until the end of June. I don't know if we can make it, but I'm making a list. I'm not usually pretty good at planning out trips, especially not far in advance. Usually it's kind of like in a couple of weeks, you know, if I save up a few bucks, I can go do this. But this is kind of a further out project, and it's going to be one of the bigger adventures we've done on this channel. So first off, let's talk about the trip itself. So on Hot Rod Power Tour, we get to start out on several different areas, but I can't afford to take a whole week off work. And some of the areas get a little farther from home than I'm ready to try and take Edna. But the first two legs of the trip are pretty close to home. It starts out in Atlanta Motor Speedway, and that's only about 2.5 hours for me, so Edna could probably make it in 3.5. Then it goes from there to the fairgrounds in Columbia, South Carolina, which is only 1.5 hours from me. So to make the trip happen, first off, there's a $150 registration fee for multi-day. That's if you're not doing the full 5 days. I can make the first two, so I can be there for the kickoff, and I can be there for the second day. Now, I can't make it to, well, I mean, the other ones go up into North Carolina somewhere kind of far from home, so it would be pretty expensive to try to do the whole thing, so I kind of have to budget this trip. So, doing something that I've never actually done before, I've made a list. So first off, we got the entry fee, which is $150. I figure since it kicks off on Monday that we want to be there starting the day before, so we need a hotel room. So we have Hotel Night 1. I haven't looked into the cost of the hotel yet, so I still got to do that. Then, you know, at the end of the day, we drive to Columbia for the second leg, and there's going to be another night in a hotel room, so we've got Hotel Room Night 2. I looked at the amount of miles to do the full trip, you know, at least the first 2 days. And I figured based on Edna's current mileage, $200 for gas. Because Edna only gets like 11 miles to the gallon. And then food. So we're going to have to eat. So that's going to be the trip itself. Now, can Edna make the trip? Edna is a really good driver. I've done a lot of work to her to make sure that she can do these trips and do this channel like we normally plan. But some things have to happen to make a trip like this. So let's go over those things. So first on our list is one tire. You guys saw in our previous video where we had done the spring bushings. Well, before we got the spring bushings done and got the front end done, the tires, or this tire, was wearing really bad. And it's pretty much done for at this point. As you can see, it's completely bald on the inside. So that needs to be replaced immediately. So I found the tire online. It's not too bad on price. Now, the other thing is, I can't just buy the tire, because Edna's got porta walls. Many of you guys may not know that, but Edna's got porta walls. And I don't think I want to reuse the old one. The tire shop that put them on, there's bead lockers in here. Or not bead lockers. Now, I've seen some videos where people really knock porta walls and say they can come off at any speed over 35 miles an hour. But I've been running these for 3 years now and have not had a single problem. I'm not saying that there's not issues with install, but I'm pretty sure because of the bead locker, they're not going anywhere. Or not bead locker, again, the bead sealer. They're not going anywhere. So I'm going to have to order a set of those, because these do have some age on them now, so that you can kind of see they're kind of cracking on the edges a little bit. But they've held up pretty well over the last 3 years. So I figure if you're going to go through the trouble of changing the tire, I'll have to get a new set of these. A set of these is pretty cheap. It's only $100 from Amazon. So that's the first thing. So on the list, we got tire and porta-walls. Next thing is going to be Edna's cooling system. Just to update you guys, you remember last week's video, we did the Shine Juice by Vice Grip Garage. So far, it looks pretty good because it doesn't have too much shine and it doesn't seem sticky like doing boiled linseed oil was. So I'm pretty happy with it so far. It's actually rained twice this week and it still looks pretty good. So yeah, I feel good about that. Alright, so anyway. Oh, the other thing was, it doesn't have a bunch of stuff stuck to it. Boiled linseed oil doesn't really dry, so like dust and little things like that will stick to the paint. But that's not sticking there. That's just on there. Because we got trees. Lots and lots of trees. Alright, so let's get in here for a minute. Now, some of you guys know Edna runs a flathead V8, which are notorious for overheating. And if you don't know about why they overheat, it's because they share an exhaust port right down here. Let's see if we can get down there so you guys can see it. Maybe I need to back the camera. But no, that's about as far away as it's going to go. So, yeah. So they share a center exhaust point, so they're prone to overheating. One of the ways I've combated this is with a set of headers, because apparently that helps out a lot. So we have headers on here, so that helps a little bit. The second thing we have is an aluminum radiator. So Edna's got a really good cooling system. However, I don't feel like Edna is gonna do good if I end up in a situation where we're caught in traffic for a really long period of time. She does tend to get a little warm when we are at the drive-thru, so I try to stay away from the drive-thru a little bit. I was invited to do a parade this year, but I didn't think that being in the stop and go would go really well, so I was a little worried about that too. So I feel like Edna needs an electric fan. Now, when I first converted Edna to 12 volts, I hadn't really planned on running much accessories or anything like that, so I only bought a 60 amp alternator, which is not powerful enough to control a electric fan. Now, I already have the electric fan. I've got a really good one that's been sitting in my small inventory of parts for several years. I never actually planned on putting it on here, although I've thought about it a few times. Weirdly, when I bought Venom had an electric fan aftermarket on there, which I don't know why the previous owner put that on there, but I took it all off and put it back to factory. Venom has a 4.4 liter V8. And that fan was more than strong enough to run a 4.4 liter. So I feel pretty confident that it'll work for this. So next up, so we have the fan. The next thing we need is a fan control. Definitely, if you're going to run an electric fan, some people say toggle switch, but I'm not going to pay that much attention to my temperature gauge to see if I need to turn it on all the time. So I'm going to get a electric thermostat control that'll work, that comes on when the key is on, so that way the fan only runs when the engine is hot enough to need it. That should free up a little bit of HPs, which Any that Edna can get, the better. Because there's probably, I would think that this double belt setup for the factory fan and the heavy fan probably robs a few. So that'll be a nice little gain there probably. So this is all going to kind of tie in together. So we got the electric fan. We need to upgrade the alternator to a more powerful one, which isn't going to be a big deal. It's just going to be a matter of spending the money to order another one. I think it's... I wrote it on my page here. Because again, we made a list. I looked up the alternator. It's $152 for one just like this one from Speedway, just with the higher amperage. I believe that was a 100 amp alternator. So it should be more than ready to handle that. Next off is the battery. Edna has a 3-year-old battery from when I converted it to 12 volts, but is it going to be enough to handle the electric fan? So that may need to be upgraded. I don't know yet for sure, so we'll find out. So I put battery question mark on my list. So we got an alternator, a thermostat, and a fan control. So we're looking $200 roughly to put the electric fan on here. I looked up the fan control too. It's only 35 bucks. So that almost completes the list. There's a few more things that have got to be dealt with that aren't necessarily going to cost any money. Well, one of them is. So next up is Edna's bed. Fortunately, since Edna has to sleep outside all the time, she is always out in the elements. We did the wood in the bed twice now. First we did the original, putting new wood in it, and then this past summer we had to refinish the wood. So what I really need, since a garage isn't an option anytime soon, is a tonneau cover. So they make a tonneau cover for it for 200 bucks. So that's another $200 that we have on our list. Because that's gonna fix two situations. One, it should help with preserving the wood. And then two, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Edna doesn't exactly have a lot of cargo room, excluding the bed. There's not much space to put anything. And we're still waiting on our door panels to come back. But, so, we'd have to put luggage, cooler, that sort of thing all back here. So it'd be nice to have some way to kind of cover it. I realize that a tonneau cover doesn't exactly lock or anything, but as a guy I used to know always said, it helps keep the honest. So, more of a deterrent than an actual stopper. So that pretty much completes the things that we have to purchase to make the trip. What else do we have to do? So, some of you guys might be nitpicking me because I haven't finished the wiring job yet. It's coming. It's going to happen. We're going to do it when it warms up a little more. So, the wiring job. The wiring job. So, we got our nice new little fuse box in here, but all these wires need to be covered up. They do look terrible at the moment, but once we get some wire looms on there, it's going to look a lot better. The other problem is we still have the original wiring harness in here because it all ties in for the headlights. The headlights are really the only thing that still needs to be wired up. So once we get those done and wired up and get those all in a loom, everything will be good. We can pull the original harness out of there, and that'll be a major improvement. So, other than that, there's nothing that has to be done. So, that's what's got to happen if we're going to make this trip. A little nervous about it because, like I said, I'm not really a good long-term planner. So, decisions got to be made here. So making Edna happen, or making Edna physically able to make the trip, is going to be part of the expense, and the other expense is going to be the actual cost of the trip. So I have it all broken down into the two sections on my list. And I kind of think that the electric fan is definitely going to be the way to go, especially with this channel and how much I drive Edna. Most people put a lot of miles on their cars. But since Edna also doubles as a second vehicle for me, I've actually only put 7,000 miles on my BMW in the last year. Because Edna got a lot of driving in this year. Edna probably got at least 4,000 miles on her this year. If not more. I didn't really track it real heavily. So, in conclusion, can we make the trip? It's really going to come down to money. I mean, that's all it is just making sure we have the money to do everything, to plan the trip. Either way, I forgot one thing that's not actually on the list, is Edna doesn't have the best spare tire in the world. So this is Edna's spare tire. It's old. I don't know how old it is, but it's heavily dry rotted. It looks terrible. But yeah, and Edna doesn't have a very good place to mount it. Because the way the exhaust is run, I'll have to modify the original mounting spot for it. So that's one issue with it. Otherwise, it just has to lay in the bed, but again, water stays under it when it's in the bed, because I used to keep it just laying in the bed, so I only tend to grab it when I plan on getting too far from the house. So that's pretty much going to do it as far as making this actual trip. So things got to happen to Edna, so hopefully that'll all work out. The other thing is just getting time off of work for an entire week. I figure 2 days is a little more reasonable than a whole week. So we'll see. Anyway, I've got some projects I got to do today. I got to put a fuel pump in an F-150, and I got to fix the door handle on Venom because it broke. And we're going to put a window regulator in at the same time. So unless I got to run to the store, Edna's not going anywhere today. Anyway, thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Our last video with the Shine Juice did really well. It's one of our highest viewed videos so far, so we really appreciate everybody who watched that. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.